Hi, welcome to Project Management videos. Now, in part 3, we'll discuss about project organization structure and organization culture. So this is the overall flow, a strategy, organization, define the project, estimation, networks, managing risks, monitoring progress, scheduling resources, reducing project duration, project closure. So now we discuss about organization. Three types of project organization: functional organization, projectized organization, matrix organization. First, we'll discuss about functional organization. Functional organization, here the project is broken into different functional modules. Each module corresponds to the functional unit of business. Coordination through functional managers. Each functional unit will be managed by the respective functional manager. And this type of project is chosen when the project requirement is dominated by one functional area. For example, if you are doing a major project in marketing, where 80% of work is going to be marketing, and there will be some finance and other operation areas, then you can go for a functional organization. So basically, what we are saying is, in your project, if major work is done in particular department or area or a functional area, it could be banking, it could be insurance, it could be finance, it could be operations, then you can go for a functional type of organization. So this is the structure of a functional organization, where you have the CEO and various functional managers who take care of HR, finance, marketing, IT, production. So normally you have the vice presidents reporting to CEO, and then under him you have the functional managers, the functional managers working under for each area. And so they would now in turn have the team members working under them. What are the advantages of a functional organization? Here, the employees are grouped by their knowledge and skills. So it helps achieve the highest degree of performance. So here, the project, you have the very high expertise knowledge because you have the people who have worked in that functional area for years, and you have the most knowledgeable people, and they do a better job and they provide you high degree of performance. And the employees are also very skilled, and efficiency is gained because they're experienced the same work, and they perform very well. Clear roles and responsibilities, accountability for their work. So each functional manager and their subordinates, staff, their roles and responsibilities are clearly defined. Everybody knows what they are going to do, what is their responsibilities, and what is the accountability for each of the task. So it is like that you have the RACI matrix, where you fix up the accountability, and you have the role, you have the consult, you have the informed, all those kind of you can have those matrix where people pick what kind of role they are doing, what is going to be their responsibilities, and who is accountable for that particular task. Most of the time, project leader or a functional manager is the accountable for that particular functional unit. Clear hierarchical structure. Each employee reports to the functional manager, so everybody knows who reports to whom and what is the communication channel. In order to reach to a particular employee, you need to reach to the functional head or functional manager. He in turn will communicate to his subordinates and get the work done. So there's sort of clear communication channels are being maintained in a functional organization. And also there is no duplication of work because each department and each employee has a fixed responsibility. Employees also feel secure because they have the job security. They know that they're going to do the job for years. And in case of a projectized organization, the project will long only for a short duration. In a functional organization, they know that they may not be 100% involved in a project. They may be 25%, 30% in a project, and rest of them, they could be doing their day-to-day operational kind of work. So their employment security is guaranteed there, and there is a sense of job security. They tend to be loyal to the organization. Also, they have a clear career growth path. So each functional unit has its own career path. So people know that every 2 years or 3 years they are going to get promoted if they perform well into the roles, and they have a clear career path being provided to them. Also, within the department, cooperation and communication are excellent. What are the disadvantages of functional organization? There is a lack of focus. Even though they are doing a project, they may not fully understand the implications of the project from a strategic level, from a higher level. So they lack focus because they also have to do their day-to-day operational work. Also, poor integration. There's not much. There's communication problem between the project manager and the functional manager. The rest of the, for example, you have 80% functional people working and then 20% project people working. So there is a kind of an integration issue happens. And also it's slow because the functional unit people and they need to do their day-to-day operational work in addition to the project work. So their involvement may not be 100% in the project. So the project movement or the project schedule is pretty slow. And lack of ownership. Basically, they don't own the project because they own the functional unit, and they are experts in that functional unit, and they may not be fully aware of the implications of the project for the organization. So there's a lack of ownership there in the case of functional organization, and also poor internal communication and focus on the functional unit and not on the overall project. As I said, they tend to focus on their functional unit, and from their point of view, they may not fully focus on the project. It is like sub-optimization, where the individual parts try to optimize their effort, their work, and they may not fully, completely optimize the entire project. So the individual units will tend to drag the overall project, also the organization. Bigger the project size, and it's very difficult to manage because you have so many other functional managers and some project managers, and there will be a lot of coordination issues and focus issues, things like that. So that is the disadvantages of the functional organization. Now we move on to the projectized organization. So projectized organization is having a dedicated team to do the projects. Teams operate as separate units under the leadership of a full-time project manager. In a projectized organization where projects are a dominant form of business, functional departments are responsible for providing support for its teams. In a projectized organization, if you are having people from the functional organization, what they would be is they would be fully dedicated to the project team, and they need to be 100% in the project team for the duration of the project. So you have the advantage of having a dedicated teams who are available 24/7 for your project. This is the project structure, project-based organization. You have the CEO and you have the vice presidents, and then you have the project managers for each project. And they have the project employees. It could be a project lead, it could be tech lead, it could be a business analyst, it could be a IT analyst, it could be designers, it could be testing team members, and so on. So various people come under the project manager category who report to the project manager. So you have all the projects are handled by project manager. Project manager has an exclusive dedicated team to work on the requirements of the project. So here it's like you're given 3 different projects are handled by 3 different project managers. As we said, clear line of authority, reduce conflict, and decision making is faster and more flexible. So project manager is the ultimate authority for the project, and there is no conflict because you have a dedicated team. Everybody knows whom they need to report to, so not much of a conflict. Initially, there could be conflict in the team. That could be when you are forming the team, there could be conflict. So they are all taken out by having regular team meetings and team outings to develop the team and to get the team to get into the performing stage. In project team formation, you have the forming, norming, performing, right? So you need to get into the performing stage as early as possible. So you try to reduce the conflict, having a dedicated project team, having team building activities yearly in the project, and then also decision making is faster because project manager takes the decision and it's pretty fast. And shorter lines of communication, strong, effective communication within the project team. So if there are issues, they need to communicate to their project manager. Project manager in turn can communicate to the senior managers, the organization. So pretty shorter lines of communication. Able to meet the milestones, good communication and cooperation between team members. So because of the dedicated team, the team is fully geared and able to meet the customer requirements and able to deliver on time, able to meet the milestones. And team members are versatile and flexible, and they have experience in different kind of projects. When you are assembling a team, you bring in people who have worked in different projects in different areas. You have a hybrid mix of people with different talents and the different expertise, different knowledge. So those things add more value to the team in terms of versatility and flexibility, and high accountability because everybody is accountable for what they are doing. In turn, for the entire project, project manager is accountable. Now, the disadvantage of projectized organization. It is expensive. It is expensive because you have a dedicated team and you need to bring in case you don't have people within the organization, you need to recruit and bring in people from outside, and that will be costlier. And also, you have the people who are working in functional area. If you are having them dedicated for the project, so their time is also very limited, and so it's a pretty expensive to have the projectized organization. Internal strife, as we said, people come from different units of the organization, so there could be internal strife when during the first 2 months, 3 months of the project. So you need to get into the performing stage of the project. Limited technological expertise. Also, as compared to the functional type of organization where you have people with very high technical skills and functional knowledge, here you may not have people with such a high technological and functional expertise. That will be an issue here. You may have only about 20 to 30% of people with good technical expertise. However, you need to do a lot of knowledge transition through expert knowledge and then transfer the knowledge to the new team members. Also, you may have you may have some 15 to 20% of the freshers. It could be a right mix of people because uh, then only you can make the project less expensive with 20 to 30% freshers and another 20 to 30% up to 3 years of experience. So if you bring in all these people, then you have a limited technological expertise in the team. Difficult post transition, project post transition, because people, they need to transfer the knowledge to the functional unit and various within the department. So the transition needs to happen, and we may have to have a transition of about 2 to 3 months where you handhold the project and then train the regular people, operational people who are going to work in the maintenance and support for the project, and then transfer the knowledge, transfer the documentation, your experience, project knowledge, project documentation, functional areas, things like that. Also, it is stressful to team members at times due to the tight deadlines. So sometimes they may have to work about 20 hours a day, 18 hours a day in case they need to meet the milestones and project deliverables. Also, due to meet the shorter duration of the project, they need to complete the project within the stipulated time. Otherwise, they may get into issues with the customer. They may have sometimes you may have the penalty clause where you have to pay hefty fee of fine for even missing for 1 week or 2 weeks of schedule. And also, if you have a project manager is given full power, so sometimes he may behave in an autocratic manner, and which the project team members may not like it. So it might create a stressful situation for the project team. So now we move on to the matrix organization. So matrix organization is kind of a mix of functional organization and projectized organization. So it is like it is overlaid on the normal functional structure. There will be two chains of command. You have a functional manager and a project manager. Project participants report simultaneously to both functional and project managers. If you are doing something related to functional area, you have to report to the functional manager, and also you have to report to the project manager. In case of people who staff from a functional unit, they have a dual reporting role. They need to report to functional manager, also to project manager. The good thing about matrix is it optimizes the use of resources. It allows for participation on multiple projects while performing the normal functional duties. So people from the functional area can work on multiple projects. Also, they can do their regular operational work on their functional area. It achieves a greater integration of expertise and project requirements. Another thing is you need to plan for the time and availability of the people from the functional unit so that you plan accordingly and execute the project. So within the functional, you have the three types of organization: weak matrix, where it is more functional and less projectized; balanced matrix, where it is 50% functional and 50% projectized; strong matrices, you tend to be more projectized than functional. So this is the organization structure for a matrix organization. You have functional managers, and also you have project managers. You have senior manager who handles the project manager. So the project manager report under uh, uh, project manager report under senior managers, and also they take care of the project. So these people come under this project manager, and this set of people come under this project manager, this set of people come under this project manager. And in addition, for example, this project manager has to deal with, let's say, 3 employees who are in different functional units. So if they have to reach to this person, they may have to contact the functional manager and reach this person. And he will deliver to the functional manager, and in turn, he will deliver to the project manager. So it's kind of a communication is not direct; it's indirect. They have to reach out to people in a particular functional area. So that is the challenge in a matrix organization. So advantages of matrix organization: resources can be used effectively since experts and equipment can be shared across projects. Products and projects are formally coordinated across functional departments. Information flows across and up through the organization. So it flows up and also across the organization. Faster sharing of information and can speed up the decision process. Employees can broaden their skills and knowledge by participating in different kind of projects. So one particular functional manager team can work in multiple projects and can gain expertise in different kind of projects. And also it provides a good environment to learn and grow their career for the individual employees. In functional departments, the employees are very skilled, and project teams also get these skilled employees whenever their services are required in a matrix organization. Also, job security is pretty high, and their employees are loyal to their functional organization. And that's why the efficiency of the matrix organization is higher if you are using people from the functional organization. They are more dedicated and more loyal to the organization compared to the projectized organization because of the nature of the projects. Once the project gets over, they may have to be in the bench, or they may have a challenge in getting into another new project. So they may not have the loyalty to the organization as their job security is being constantly threatened every now and then when they are released from a particular project. What are the disadvantages of matrix organization? So you have the reporting structure where the staff reports to both functional and project manager. So you may have the two performance appraisals. The project manager will do some appraisal, and functional manager also do an appraisal. And there is a conflict between project manager and functional manager regarding the authority and power sometimes even in IT projects, it happens when you have the project manager and you have the horizontal project managers, probably like a functional project manager. For example, testing, they may have a test project manager who in turn reports to the overall project manager. So there could be both of them could be in the same cadre, or sometimes the functional manager can be at a higher level than the project manager. So they may not like to report to a junior within the organization. So there would be a conflict between both these people in teams regarding the who has got more authority and power in the organization. Also, no clear roles and responsibilities for the team. Sometimes because functional unit they have their own roles and responsibilities. For them, doing a project is one of the 10 activities. So, but for a project manager, the staff role is much more rigorous than what it is in a functional organization. So also there is a competition for scarce resource across modules. If you have a very good resource in a functional unit, multiple project managers would like to utilize the functional expertise person within their project. So there could be competition between the modules and between teams for the scarce resource. And in matrix organization, you tend to have more managers, either functional managers or projectized managers, depending on the whether it's weak or a strong matrix. In case of strong matrix, you may have more project managers. In case of a weak matrix, you have less project manager, more functional managers. So those managers they increase the overhead cost because managers' duty is manage the team, and they may not have productive work to show to be billed to the customer. They may at the maximum they may bill about 10 to 15% of their effort as project management within the project, which may not be sufficient for the overall project, the organization. In a matrix organization, the workload tends to be high. Employees have to do the regular work. So if you are from a functional team, you need to do your regular functional work, also do the project work. Project also works in deadlines, so they may have to put in more effort to complete the project. So their workload tends to be high. Prioritization between functional work and project work is always a gray area because team from the functional team they may tend to focus more on their functional area of work rather than project work, which may not be of high importance to them. And a matrix structure is expensive to maintain, and the resource requirements may be for a short duration. So this gives you a rough effectiveness versus the type of organization, where you have the functional organization and weak matrix, balanced matrix, strong matrix, and project organization. As you can see, two types of project, construction and a new product development. If you see, functional organizations are mostly ineffective for both construction and new product. And here, for the project organization, it is at its peak. For the new product, in a project organization, it performs pretty well. For a construction industry, strong matrix performs better than a project organization because a strong matrix, you have good project managers. Also, you have very good construction industry people with good expert knowledge who contribute more towards the construction projects. So that is the that's why here you see the strong matrix structure has a very effective performance for construction type of projects. So construction is basically this construction industry where you have almost 90% of work is related to the construction industry. So if you have a strong matrix structure, you are pretty effective there because in a strong matrix you have the projectized version, also functional managers. Projectized, you have more control over the resources. You have the dedicated team. So in this case, I think there are about 80 to 90% of the people would be dedicated team in a strong matrix. So it's a pretty very effective type of organization for construction type of industry. So in general, what we can say is if it is a kind of a functional unit kind of work, if you go for a projectized strong matrix, I think it performs better than the traditional models. And how do you choose the right type of organization for a project? So you need to see how important is the project to the organization's success. What percentage of core work involves projects? What level of resources are available? You need to see the amount of work you do in an organization. If you're doing most of the things in a project type of work, then I think you can go for a project-based kind of organization. If you're doing most in a functional area, then it's better to go towards the functional type of organization. And also, what are the type of resources, human and physical resources available? You need to see based on that. You need to function. If you have more machines and instruments, in that sense, you can go for a functional type of organization where expertise in the people who running the machinery, things like that would be pretty important there. In terms of project considerations, you need to look at the size of the project. What is the strategic importance? If higher the size, bigger the size, it's better to go for a matrix kind of organization. What is strategically, if it is very, very important, then you can go for a projectized organization. Where there is kind of novelty and innovation is required, then you can go for a matrix kind of organization where you can bring in functional people for some innovation, also technology people. And need for integration, number of departments involved. I think matrix organization would be better for this. Environmental complexity, what is the number of external interfaces you have? And budget and time constraints, what is the budget and time constraints? What is the stability of resource requirements? So these type of things you need to look at in order to decide what type of organization structure you need to go for, whether functional, projectized, or matrix type of organization. Now we'll discuss about organization culture. So organization culture is defined as a set of shared norms, beliefs, values, and assumptions which bind people together, thereby creating shared meanings. The personality of the organization that sets it apart from other organization. It is like you analyze and dissect the organization and try to understand the personality of the organization. So it provides a sense of identity to the team members, helps legitimate the management system of the organization, clarifies and reinforces the standards of behavior. So here, amplified by the behavior of leaders is one aspect, embedded in a network of organizational practices, shared beliefs and values, visible in the way that work gets done on a day-to-day basis. You can see actually how culture is based on the way the work people do their work in an organization, evident in the behavior of the individuals and groups. So now we look at the key dimensions of the organization culture. If you want to analyze any organization culture, you want to see what type of culture the organization is, you need to look at these 10 parameters, 10 dimensions. So one is the member identity, whether he identifies with the job or with the organization. So sometimes if you ask a person where you are working, what are you doing? You would say, I'm a programmer in an IT company. Or somebody else will say, I work for Infosys, I work for Wipro. So that means the person is more identified with the organization rather than with the kind of a job role they are doing. And the second aspect is the individual or the group emphasis. Whether the individual emphasis is promoted or everybody identifies themselves as a group. In many organizations, each project team, they ask you to name the project team, motivate the team members so that they have the group identity rather than the individual identity. Task and people. What is the management focus? Whether is it task oriented or people oriented? So task oriented means they are very particular about the task. If the task doesn't get done, the person who is involved will be put into task. Basically, they are focused on 100% on task. Some managers will have people oriented focus. In the sense, even if somebody doesn't do the task on time, they may tend to give them extra time and they motivate them to do better. So those are the managers or people oriented managers. So in managers, if you can see whether it's a task-oriented manager or a people-oriented manager, there are disadvantages and advantages in both the sides. If you have a task-oriented person, so you will be pushed to do things on time, and you tend to develop discipline sometimes because you have the tough boss who is a taskmaster who ensures that you are giving 100%, 120% all the time. On the flip side, it could create a stressful situation if you are keep on doing the same thing, and if you are put under stress all the time, you develop into stressful situations. Other side is people oriented is you tend to give leverage to the people oriented manager who gives leverage to the team members. So what happens is they may miss the deadline, the schedule might get delayed. So the focus should be somewhere in between. You need to have some amount of task orientation, also some amount of people orientation to understand how that they are stressful, that they are able to do their task. So you need to motivate them. All those things you need to do. Next is the unit integration. Whether your project or organization is it integrated with the organization very well, or it works as an independent unit, or it is dependent on the other units. So most of the projects in a IT or any sector, they are all done in an interdependent way because you need people from infrastructure, you need people from administration, you need people from other functional areas. So it's all interdependent world these days. And what type of control you have is a loose control or a tight control. Whether you have less control mechanism in the sense, then you may have more problem in monitoring projects. You may skip deadlines. You may miss the schedules. So project might get delayed due to lack of control. So you have to have some amount of control. So you can have control through regular audits, regular checkups within the with the good monitoring tools. You can monitor the cost, you can monitor the schedule, you can monitor the efforts, you can monitor the productivity, things like that. And what type of organization is it? Risk tolerance is pretty low or high. So risk tolerance low means the organization is not willing to allow you to take risks. So in sometimes if you have low risk, there is a low reward. So if you take high risk, there is a high reward. So you need to balance between the low risk tolerance and high risk tolerance in order to have a good payoff within the project. What is the reward criteria? Is it performance based or any other criteria? Whether you have set of key performance areas, KPIs defined, and a set of goals defined. If you have performed up to the expected level of objectives, whether you got the good performance appraisals and you got hike, things like that. So what sort of organization? Sometimes organization, even though you have performed well, they may have the bell curve where only 20% will get more hike. The rest of the people might get average percentage of hike. For example, could be 10%, and more people could be getting 20% of people could be getting around 20 to 30% hike compared to average hike could be about 8 to 9%, things like that. So this happens because you have the bell curve. So nowadays, many of the organizations they have taken out the bell curve because bell curve is limited in the sense it only rewards if you had 10 team members, it will reward only 2 team members. Suppose sometimes all the 10, 8 or 9 people perform pretty well, uniform level of performance. They have exceeded the expectations of the organization. Then they all 8 have to be given pretty good, decent hikes and promotions because they have performed pretty well over the years. So you can't put the bell curve and say, okay, only 20% of them will get because I have put it in the bell curve and the rest will not get. So that will demotivate the people. So nowadays, many organizations have removed the bell curve kind of performance rating. So they gone in for new tools and things like that, so that they reward people on good performance rather than other criteria. So even the normalization bill curve comes under the other criteria because it restricts the performance of the people. Uh, doesn't Performance doesn't get translated into the financial or other benefits for the employees. Now we look at conflict tolerance, whether very high or low. Normally, you need some amount of conflict in teams. You can't say zero conflict, because when there is some amount of conflict, there's some amount of chaotic, as you say, in any system, some amount of chaos is required. I have seen in projects people just come and sit and go. There's nothing. If you look at the environment, it is not chaotic. So you look at another kind of go to another development center. There you see a lot of people moving in and around. They are all interdependent. They are doing things. You can see that they are doing actively things. So some amount of chaos is there, and some amount of conflict also need to be there, so that people challenge each other and then improve their way of performing, doing things. Some When you come to some conflict resolution, then you come up with some new ideas for the team. And what is the type of orientation, means or ends? Means means the person comes and tells you, okay, you do whatever, you kill somebody, you do whatever, I don't care, I want things to be done. So that is the means kind of a manager. Ends kind of manager means he tells you that I wanted to complete the project, I wanted to do things ethically as per law. That's how it is. So you need to do things within the ethical boundary, and also you need to deliver. So that is the kind of thing you look at. You need to be towards the ends kind of a organization. Otherwise, there are many organizations who look at means, and they get into long-term problems because they cook up their book values, and their stock rates have become highly inflated. Suddenly, you realize that whatever they have said, whatever they were reported as profit and things like that were not correct. They are cooked up values because they wants to ensure that they reach their goal of having higher, increasing their stock value and increasing their capital flow. That type of organization, 10th dimension is whether it is open system focus, whether it is internal or external. You can't have 100% internal without any external help. For example, if you are doing a R&D kind of a lab, where you are doing something which is very secret, something which you have patented. So you can understand that you are not an open system, you are more an internal system. But most of the project organization these days needs to be external focused, because sometimes they need resources from the external vendors. They may outsource some work to their partners. So they need to have a focus towards more external focus rather than internal. So this is an example of a project organization. Here, as you can see, the each member identifies as an organization, and team members is more on a group based, and it's people focused mostly, some amount of task focus, and interdependent unit integration. And control is pretty decent, not great, not loose. Risk tolerance is pretty high. And this is like a more startup companies and small companies where they are ready to take risk. If your company becomes bigger, like TCS, Infosys, Wipro, they cannot allow you to take more of a risk. And also, reward criteria is more performance based. As I said, you do away the bell curve and move towards performance based rewards schemes. And conflict tolerance is pretty high. As I said, you need some amount of conflict and chaos within the system. And means justifies the ends orientation. Here, is more towards the ends orientation. But also, as I said, these days you cannot be internal focused, you need to be external focused, where you need to interact with the outside stakeholders, partners, vendors, universities, and things like that, so that you develop your organization. So, key things in identifying organization culture is study the physical characteristics of an organization, read about the organization, observe how people interact with the organization, interpret stories and folklore surrounding the organization. So these are all the things. Also, you look at all the 10 dimensions within the organization. So this is like for people who are joining a new company, would like to join another company. They are working in a company, they want to move to a new company. So they need to look at the organization culture, because people who have worked in, let's say, Indian companies, they may not understand the work culture in a multinational organization. Or, for example, sometimes it's become easy for people who work in an Indian company to work in a multinational company. But the other way around, it is pretty difficult for them to adjust, to digest, having worked in a multinational company with their kind of work culture. Then once you come into an Indian company, they find it pretty difficult, because they haven't understood the work culture, they haven't adapted themselves, or they haven't changed themselves to be flexible enough to the requirements or to the understandings or to the organization culture of the new organization. What are the implications for the projectized organization? In a projectized organization, interacting with the culture and subcultures of the parent organization, interacting with the clients or customer organization, interacting with other organizations connected to the project. So in a projectized organization, it becomes highly challenging, because you have people with different cultures, different work ethics come together and to do a performance project. So they need to understand the common project culture and organization culture. And also they need to understand the external partners they work with, the customers, what is their work culture, and understand how they work. And also within the organization, you may have to interact with the external partners, vendors. You need to understand their type of work and organization culture. So navigating organization cultures is pretty tough for a projectized organization compared to a functional organization, where you have mostly 80 to 90% of the people would be from the same organization. So you know the culture, and you can mingle with them and understand and do your work better.